Hey there, Ride the Car Guy here, and we are back with part 2 of painting the Nissan Xterra plastics. Now last time we painted the front, so that would be the bumper and the grille, but we are still left with the trim on the side and the rear bumper fascias. The trim on the side is glued to the side, so that would involve pulling it off, removing all the glue, just to paint it and then glue it back on. We will not be tackling that, we're just going to mask it and paint it while it's still on the side of the truck. The bumper fascias in the rear, however, can be removed, so that's what we'll do. Let's jump right into it. Since the side piece is glued on, I'm going to mask it with some just regular blue masking painter's tape. The trick here is to make sure that the painter's tape gets below the outside edge. Since the adhesive doesn't run all the way to the edge of the trim, you have a little bit of space there that you can slide the tape in. Let me show you. Just kind of work the tape back and forth, slide it behind that piece. There you go. And then just make sure it's rubbed down onto the paint, and now you have a nice piece of protection. You're not going to be spray painting the actual side of the car. Continue that method all the way around the trim piece on the side of the truck. Now that everything is masked, we can sand it down and not worry about sanding down the paint. So grab your high grit sandpaper and sand this all down, and then once you sand it down, make sure it's wiped clean before you start painting. If you have any dents or scrapes from, let's say, other car doors, for instance, this is a good opportunity to get those smoothed out before you paint. So once you paint, you can kind of get rid of those entirely. If it's too deep, you may not be able to completely get rid of them, but at least you can kind of minimize the damage. I'm happy with my sanding, so I'm just going to take a wet cloth and wipe it down to prep it for paint. Once this is done, we're just going to do some additional masking to make sure we don't spray the side of the truck, and then we're going to get to spraying. Now I know there's 100 ways to mask something, especially something like this. However, I'm going to use black trash bags, and I'm doing that because I'm confident that these bags are strong and that there's no holes in them. So when I mask and I tape it all up, I know that if some paint gets onto the plastic, it's not going to make it through. So I've just cut it into sheets here, and I'm going to mount it up like this and then tape along the entire edge. Now notice I taped up small sections of it first, and I did that because you'd be driving yourself crazy trying to get one piece of tape from one end all the way to the other without having it fly and fall over and all that. So now that I've gotten it tacked up, I'm just going to run one solid piece all the way down to make sure I don't have any gaps. Excellent. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to repeat it on the bottom and on the sides. Great, now we're ready to paint. Just make sure that you're adhering to the the basic spray painting rules that we talked about in part 1. Alright, I did a nice light coat for the first time. Just let that dry and then come back over it again at least once. Make sure it's looking good before you disassemble all this masking you did. I have my second coat on. It looks really good. Just make sure you let it get nice and dry before pulling off all of your masking. While that dries, we're going to shift our focus to the rear bumper fascia, and we're going to remove this fully. So there is 5 screws in here, a body clip back here, 2 body clips on the bottom, and then 2 bolts on the back. I'm going to start inside the wheel well and just remove these 5 screws and that body clip. Everything on the inside of the wheel well is removed. There's just one more body clip holding the splash guard on, and that's down here near the back. So you can just pull that off. Alright. Now remove the next body panel further back, and then we'll work on the rear. The last pieces of hardware holding in the bumper fascia are these 10mm bolts. Just go ahead and remove both of those, and then we're going to pull this off the side. just do one last check and make sure everything has been removed. It should kind of wobble around pretty freely after you take all those out, but just be sure. We're going to start near the front, and there's just some clips. I think there's 2 or 3 here and 2 or 3 here. We're just going to lift and pull those out. Okay, very good. Those are out down there as well. So now, just make sure everything's good. Pop it off the back. Awesome. And now just pull it off. So there's your piece. Now we're just going to go treat it the same way we treated the side panels and just sand it down and paint it. Now here's the fascia. I just set it up on 2 sawhorses, and I see some dents and dings here that I'm going to have to smooth out when I'm sanding, but that's the next step. I wiped it down so it's clean, but now I'm going to go sand it just like we did the other pieces. In fact, we're going to treat this exactly like we did our front bumper. So we're going to sand it, make sure it's smooth, maybe give it another sand, make sure it's really smooth, and then we're going to start cleaning it up and painting it. I finished my initial sanding where I was able to work out some of the scrapes that were on the plastic. Now I'm going to go back over it one more time with a fresh piece of sandpaper, nice and lightly, just to make sure that if I did kind of push too hard on any of the sanding, I can even that out, and then we're going to wipe it down and paint. So I finished my second sanding and I wiped it down to get any dust off of it, so we are ready to paint. Remember, when you're spray painting, you want to do light, even passes, and always let your finger off the nozzle when you are changing direction. We're going to do 1 coat, let it dry, do another coat, and then we will call it done. I finished both coats on the bumper fascia, and I also just did a quick spray down of my mud flaps. Really nothing special there. I literally just cleaned them and spray painted them because I'm thinking of replacing those in the future. So once this is all dry, just install it back on the truck in the reverse order that you uninstalled it, and that's it. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, be sure to let me know by hitting that like button. Also subscribe and click that bell to get notified when I upload new videos. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, head to rtcg.tv. And if you missed part 1 to this video, just wait to the very end, it'll be there for you. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.